All right, welcome back again. Another minor detour. The minor detour we alluded to in the last one, and that's people's expectations with the keyboard, right? So if you've got the keyboard up, people really expect to be able to click into the blank area, like click on the background and have it go away. That's just kind of an expectation that people have built up. So we're going to implement that. And then there's also a capability to add a like accessory view to the keyboard up here. And so what apps like Gmail has done, if they've just made a button that says done, and you just click on done and it just makes the keyboard go away, right? So we're going to go ahead and add those two things. We do have some way to kill the keyboard. And the way that we added thus far was we added a delegate method on the text field. And that was the should return. And during the should return, we hit the keyboard, right? And then we said, yes, you should return. So that one works, but we're gonna add two more. And really the whole goal here is to try to manage your user experience. So you want your user experience to be positive. Some people will naturally hit return. They'll expect the keyboard to go down. Some people will naturally hit the background. They'll expect the keyboard to go down. And then or you can add a done button and people will see it and nobody can get confused about that. So the way we're going to do these things is there's pretty short one-liner, to be honest. So in view did load, we're going to add a tap gesture recognizer. So let's go see that code come to life. So this one, you can go ahead and load it up right now. So it says much later, we'll do stuff here. Now is that time. So we're going to add a UI tap gesture recognizer. Gesture recognizers are neat. You can recognize for like swipe left, swipe right, double swipe, all kinds of things. And one of them is tap gesture recognizer. And the way these work is you just say UI gesture recognizer, alloc, and then you say init, and then you see what your options are. So I'll try to make this a little bit bigger and take it a little higher. So target. Target is you're going to call some method. The method that we're going to call, we're going to be sneaky. We're going to call a method. I'm just going to comment this out so we can see what method we're going to call. There's a method on the self.view that's called endEditing. EndEditing receives a value, so it receives a bool, but it turns out that this bool is just whether it forces it to close or whether it asks it to close, and it'll actually work, regardless of whether you pass true or false to that. Now, almost always you do pass yes, right? But we're going to be sneaky. So we want to call this method on the view whenever anyone taps on the view, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say call this method. So the way you do this, you say @selector, and the method is called endEditing : because the colon is part of the method name. So that's the tap gesture recognizer, and we're going to add that gesture recognizer onto self.view. So the way this is supposed to work is that if anybody clicks on the view, it will receive this tap gesture recognizer, and it's underlined, so I must have typoed on the name. It's a UI tap gesture recognizer, so I needed to make sure to get that right. So the way this works is if somebody clicks on it, it'll call on self.view, the endEditing method. If they click on like a button or something like that, that should absorb the tap and it shouldn't go through. So let's just try it out. So if I go into mow the lawn here, if I click on the star, you can see it absorbs it, and it didn't end editing. But if I click on the background view, it goes away. So that feature is so handy. I mean, like everybody should know that trick because people expect it. It is kind of funny. Endediting is supposed to receive a parameter. Whenever you set up a target this way, it actually passes the sender as the parameter. So it's kind of funny, into a function that's expecting yes or no, you're actually sending an object, so it's a little inelegant. But you know what, it turns out to work fine. And probably when you pass an object, that counts as true, right? Because anything that's not false is true. So that was tapping the background. That was super easy. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a button above the keyboard that just says done. So we'll just kind of cheat here and we'll look at the finished product. So what we're ultimately doing is we're setting this input accessory view. So that's the view that's just like above the keyboard. What we're going to choose to do is we're going to put a toolbar there. So it's very similar to like our cancel, delete, save toolbar. But we're going to create the bar button items programmatically. Whenever you create views programmatically, there's a lot of code, right? So we're going to create a bar button item that says the word done. Done is going to actually do the same thing we did here, which is it's going to call end editing on the view. Since I want done to show up on the right and not the left is the default, we're also going to have to put in one of those flex spaces. And we did that on the storyboard just by dragging and dropping it over. But here we're going to have to actually programmatically create it. And then we're going to have to create a toolbar that is the right size. And then we're going to have to put those two bar button items in it. Nice thing is you don't have to deal with any constraints because you're just going to make it the accessory view for the keyboard. All right, so I'm going to do all that within view will appear, because one of the things I wanted was to know the width of the view. So I'm going to start doing that stuff. All right, so it turned out to be a lot of code, so I'm going to cheat and I'm just going to have it magically appear here, right? So the first thing we wanted to do is we wanted to create a bar button item. So I called this one hide. It's going to be of bar button item style plain, so it's just a regular old button. I'm going to have it say done, and if you click it, it's going to call a function on self.view of end editing. I typed the wrong thing in there. And so that one's good there. The next one up is that flex space. I'm going to cheat again. I'm just going to bring it in, right? So this one you say bar button item alloc, but then instead of in it with title, you're going to in it with bar button system item. And so we're going to in it with a flexible space. It's not going to call any function, so it's just going to say nil, and it's not going to have any action, so it's just going to be nil. So there we've prepared our two buttons, which is great. The next thing we need to do is we need to actually create our toolbar. So I'll be good. I'll go ahead and do a couple of these things. So for a toolbar, we're just going to say UI toolbar alloc. We're going to use init with frame. This is just like how big is this thing. So we're going to use CG rec make. X's and Y's are both going to be 0, 0. The width is going to be however big the view is. So I know this looks cryptic, but self.view.bounds, so that's how big it is, .size.width. And then the height, we're just going to hard code. I think most toolbars are just 44. And then all we're going to do in the toolbars is we're just going to make an array out of the flex space and then the hide bar button items. And then we're going to set that on the keyboard. So the way you do that is you say task text field, it's input accessory view is equal to toolbar. Cool. So if that works, when you click done, it should just hide the keyboard, right? So let's go ahead and run this guy. And so we go into a task. So mow the lawn. I can hide the keyboard by clicking in here. I can hide the keyboard by hitting return. And then this new one is there's now a done button, and hopefully clicking on hit will also hide the keyboard. So I know it seemed a little like hardcore to have like 3 ways to hide the keyboard, but there's some people that very much expect a background click to go away. There's some people that will expect return to make it go away, and then nobody can complain about having a done button, so you can just click on done there. By the way, I also predict that you could probably also, so here I wrote the word done, but you could also use the bar button item. There's one for done. I chose to do it this way because I know that in the lab you're going to need to do some more custom things. But if you were really just doing the done button, you should probably use the system item for done, right? So in addition to flexible space, you could probably also just paste that there and make that done. And I'll tell you what, I'll just test it real quick to see if it works, because in the normal case, that's what you want to do. And the nice thing about that one is that it says done in like a much better font, right? So if you're really just doing a done button, that right there is the way to do it. The reason that I chose to do it like this is because in the lab, you're going to be making 2 buttons. So I just went ahead and prepared you for that style. All right, I think that is it for the keyboard, and hopefully nobody can get confused now. The next thing we've got to do, the only thing left is delete, and then this baby is done. All right, see you next time.